Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the 9% Show. I am your host, Steven Burton, the founder and CEO of Perfect Tux, and I am so excited that you've joined us here on this premiere day, or if you're finding this video 3 months from now, 6 months from now, however you found it. Thank you for tuning in. We really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. So I know some of y'all might be asking, hey, what exactly is the 9%? Well, I'm glad you asked. So in America, there's only 9% of people that own an established business. Now, what's an established business? Another good question. They define that as anyone that owns a business that pays the owner for at least 3.5 years. And trust me, paying yourself for over 3.5 years, it is hard to do. Trust me, I know. So as somebody that's in the 9%, I just really wanted to start this show to put out game, to have no fluff, no BS, just keep it 100 with you and just really give out some true content that could really help your journey as an entrepreneur, or you might be in the 9% club yourself. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to put out this content. I've been wanting to do it for a super long time, but I've let business get in the way of running my business and scaling my business. But I also let a little, I've been discouraged by so many gurus out there, quote, quote, gurus, or I just thought it was oversaturated. But once I saw this statistic about the 9%, it just made me think you know what, Steve, there's not many of us out here. So you have a story to tell, you have an experience you went through, and it's my duty to share this with you. And I believe you go get some content that's you cannot find anywhere else. So that is all about the 9% Show. But in today's episode, our first episode, oh my goodness, I'm so excited. We have a special guest for the first episode, and I'm gonna go to my cards because I do not want to mess this up. So we have Shanita Nicholas. She is a visionary entrepreneur and the co-founder of Sip Sonder, a global Black woman-owned coffee brand with its flagship coffee house located in Inglewood, California. Inglewood! Shanita's journey embodies the spirit of entrepreneurship, innovation, and community building. With a background in corporate law, she has a passion for providing legal and business advice to startups. And personally, I've seen Sip Sonder on Ellen, the Jennifer Hudson Show, even on the Lakers, and I'm a Laker fan, so I spotted that out. They have a collaboration with Vans, just all over the place with Sip Sonder. So I'm so excited to have you here as the first episode and the first guest of the 9% Show. So welcome.
I'm no pressure, right?
No pressure at all. Okay, no pressure. Right. I hope you liked the introduction.
That was perfect.
Was it? Okay.
Good.
All right. I worked hard.
I learned a lot of information. I think you told me before, but I redigested.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The percentages.
And also, let me also say for everyone that we go back, and it's I thought about you so much for this show because I was, I think, a year into Perfect Tux, or almost a year when we met.
Yeah.
And I remember it was, at the time, it was LA Black Investors Club, and it was an e-commerce event.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just let me come to this because I know everything about e-commerce. And so, but anyways, we met, we kicked it off, and I think we ended up going to maybe a happy hour a week or so later. And at that time, and this we'll go dive into this conversation, you told me this idea about this place called Sip Sonder, a word that I have no idea. I've never heard it before. And it was just it's going to be a coffee house and this going to have this and that and recording studio, whoop-de-whoop. So I was just okay, I'll see you. But lo and behold, I think the next year, the building was there. And y'all was working towards getting it. So I think if we could start off just Sip Sonder, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean, I knew in that moment, but how long were you thinking about it up until then? Give me some of the genesis of it.
No, for sure. I mean, we don't have a recording studio, so we did some pivots.
Oh no!
This is that time.
Pivot's okay. Pivot's okay.
So we did pretty much all the other stuff. But Sip Sonder, for me, started. So it's myself and my co-founder, Amanda Jane Thomas. And so I'll kind of input some of her background too. But for me, it started in New York, and I had this idea to do an after work on the weekends program, I guess, called And Drink Coffee. And I would get together different entrepreneurs and advisors, business owners, service providers, and things like that. And I would have these meetings in coffee shops around Bed-Stuy. and there weren't really like a lot of coffee shops around Best at the time or now. But I would like find the ones that were coming up. And that was kind of the start for me. That's when I started behind this like government company, Coffeepreneur. And so Coffeepreneur is still the government name for Sip Sonder. It's Coffeepreneur
Really?
LLC. So,
you got some names, okay?
one thing we don't do at Sip Sonder is come up with the name.
Okay.
It's like, but yeah, so that like idea of having a space for like entrepreneurs and like business owners, things like that, to kind of come together and like within the Black community specifically, in the communities that they are, like versus having to go somewhere, like go into, at the time in New York, like go into the city, into Manhattan or wherever else. Like, no, we can have these conversations. We can do it in Best Eye, and we can start to grow this network. And so that was always something that was important to me, like this connection moment. On the coffee side, so Sip Sonder, little background on Sip Sonder. We have our physical locations. So we have the coffee shop in Inglewood, coffee shop downtown. It's like a kiosk with the music center in downtown Los Angeles. We have a mobile cart at the Basquiat exhibit right now. That'll be there.
Oh, wow.
Till the end of the year.
Just name dropping.
Which is fun.
Nice.
It's been a good time.
Yes.
And then we just announced that we'll be opening our next location next year in downtown Disney District. And so I'm very excited about
I saw that post. I like that one. I double liked it. I hope you still see my likes on it. I don't even know. Do you run them? Do you run your social media?
Yeah, I see everything. It's like three of us in the company.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like the same way. Like I still like, I don't do everything on the Perfect Tech stuff, but it's like I still get every notification. I still get
literally every
order.
If someone is like, if you're wondering, like if you reach out to Sip Sonder, do we see it?
Yeah.
Like I see everything. I see everyone who likes every single thing.
Right. Okay.
Like I'm in it.
It's interesting you say like always connected with everything you do is community entrepreneurs, like business owners. How did you first like make that an interest of yours? And even like, sidebar is that I guess you're always a lawyer. I don't think that goes away. But we could talk about if you're still practicing like actively, but like also in corporate law and helping, I don't know, big companies, small companies, whatever the case may be. But how did you like literally, like, why is that connected to you?
Like the movement, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I don't know if we talked about this, but I started as an engineer. And so like that is, if I had to identify myself and what I feel like most is an engineer. I did chemical engineering, so I get to like, we can talk about the roasting at some point, but it's like I'm like a nerdy engineer at the like core of me. And so that was actually my first passion with it. I know there's a lot about coffee like within like the community aspect, but one area that I get to dive into even more now is also like just the science of coffee and like that whole cycle and supply chain. It's like a whole other area of passion for me. I can see the passion. Yeah, I get like really into it.
Getting real nerdy
like,
right now.
I'm about to go in.
We can save that for a second. But yeah.
But the community, like entrepreneurship for me came initially, like I didn't know what entrepreneurship really was. Like I don't have, you talk about like the first, and I'm thankful that is less of a thing within our communities now, but there's still a lot of it. Like I'm the, the first engineer, the first lawyer, the first entrepreneur, like, etc. And so it wasn't something I grew up with. It wasn't part of my vocabulary, something to like look out for. And so I didn't have that kind of like buzz of entrepreneurship until I was back in grad school, honestly. I did a JD MBA, and so part of on the MBA side, I dove into private equity in like a super deep way, and that got me into this is so nerdy. I feel like I want to.
This is part of the story, though. This is what makes this stuff make sense, right. So it's okay.
But I got really, really into private equity. And for me, on the private equity part, it was like, okay, these are like these huge companies that are getting purchased out and like rearranged in whatever way operations come into that. And so really diving in on like, okay, what is like diligence into a company? What is How do you value a company? What do you do if there's like any issues like that? How do you liquidate a company or provide liquidity to a company? And so I came into entrepreneurship really at the end, like almost at the exits of like what an entrepreneurial shift is or like movement is. And then it, within that, I was in New York at Columbia for school, and we were just building out this entrepreneurship program, like this interdisciplinary entrepreneurship program. And they tapped me to be like one of 2 grad students to like work on building it out.
Okay.
And so I got to like really dive into, so I was like studying or like focused on private equity and like this really mature stage of an exit. And then I was building out this like entrepreneurship program across like the law school, the engineering school, the medical school, and like journalism, I think, different like schools. And so I got to see this like really big picture of, okay, there's, I get the end, but there's like the start to it. And this is like what people are trying to like move towards. Right. And so it was this like aha moment of the whole system. Right. I was like, this is like a system. And even now when I think about entrepreneurship, I always think about the exit or like, it doesn't have to be an M&A, but like if it's an IPO or if it's a legacy, like whatever it is, like that is just how I'm attuned now. And so, but you got to like get there. Right. You got to like do the start of it. And so then I got really interested at that point. That's when I started doing, thinking about those meetups and like, okay, well, we can, I see what happens when a company exits. These companies don't look like me. Like they don't, these billions of dollars aren't circulating in the communities that, I come from, and understanding from that, like, okay, let's like dial it back. How do you even get there? Like, what's the beginning of this? So my entry into entrepreneurship was like the exit, and then kind of dialed it back into, how do we get there?
Which is great, because it's like, well, one, you said a lot of terms or words that are really sexy now. Like probably back then, like no one knew what that was. I like how you said like entrepreneur, like I didn't even know what that was. And that, even my own story, like I've been doing like entrepreneurial things and like e-commerce before I even knew what e-commerce was. It was just like kind of like get to it. So it's funny how those things can, set foundations and things you can always, fall back to as you're like going on this journey. But then you look back on it, it's like, oh wow, okay, connecting the dots. So it seems like you always, like I said, you've always just been connected to entrepreneurship. But it makes sense, and it's like, but coming from it from a backward space is like that's dope, because like, but then also you can, and I know you love giving advice and giving. Like startup advice and stuff like that. But it's like to be able to have that big picture in mind, I think that's where a lot of people find where they kind of fall off or find their problems, because it's like you don't know what you don't know. And it's like to have somebody that like looks like you and to help, put these thoughts together, hold events. I think that's like so dope. So that's great. So let's go into the Sip Sonder name real quick, because like, how did the name itself like come about? And then like, what does it mean? And like, does it mean anything bigger or to you guys or to you personally? I mean,
for sure.
Sip Sonder.
So there's 2 parts to the story. So Sonder itself is the realization that each passerby is living their own like unique lives, has their own ambitions, their own craziness, and this kind of like, I'm an individual, but I'm part of this collective, and we're all just making it like moving through this world together. And so that as an idea came, okay, I have to tell this part because it connects. It's a little embarrassing. So I also really love words. And so I used
You really love a lot of things.
I really do.
I'm glad that you really love them.
I do.
Okay. All right.
I'm a very curious person. But I do really love words. And so I used to just always have a dictionary with me at all times.
Okay.
Because I came across a word that I didn't know. So I could listen. I hear myself saying these things. I do. Like,
you know what's great about this stuff is like, people, whoever's watching this, can see the finishing product of where all this came from, though. So you can't even front on none of this. It's like Eminem saying, I love dictionary. You go, okay, I need to get a dictionary.
Like, let me go
You know,
find
so
this.
yeah, go ahead.
But I came across this one dictionary. It was online. It was called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. And it was like, it's not like full word, like real world words in the Webster dictionary, but there are these like feelings, or like if you could put a word to a feeling. And it's one of the reasons I love like other languages too, because there are some languages that are really nuanced and have these beautiful words that describe like these massive like human feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And so this particular dictionary was, creating these words that would tie to these like broader feelings. And so Sonder came up for me probably like 3 years before there was ever a thought of like Sip Sonder, just like the word itself. Yeah. And I read that, like the definition of it, and I was like, oh, this is like something, when you like at dinner with like whomever, and you're like, okay, let's make up a story for those people over there. Like, what's happening over, know what I mean? And so it's that idea of like, okay, I can see everyone around me, and they have like their own full. Okay, I used to do that.
I mean, I people watch.
Okay.
I people watch.
You like,
yeah, I definitely people watch.
I saw the side eye for a second.
I was connected it. It's funny when you was breaking down the original Sip Sonder to me at that table. I was just like, I feel it. I see it. I get it. No, I'm with you though.
So the word was like when I came across it then, and then fast forward to even before I got to LA, I used to go to this one coffee shop in Brooklyn called Sit and Wander. And it was just like my favorite. It was like super small and cute, and like I didn't steal the name from them,
but the feel of it.
But that feel of it of like, oh, you can do like a like a this and that. And so when Amanda and I were kind of like thinking about the name, it was like late one night. We had just finished part of the business plan, I think, and like writing it out, and we're like, okay, we got to figure out this name. And I had brought up Sonder, and I was like, oh, there's this word Sonder that I like came across a while ago based on what we were talking about and the energy and vibe that we wanted in the space. I was like, I think this word, might be connected to it. And so I told Amanda, and she was like, yeah, that like feels really good. And I was like, okay, well, and then I remembered the shop in Brooklyn, and I was like, okay, like Sit and Sonder. And we were like, maybe, we were like, let's sleep on it. And then I get this message at like 2 a.m. and it just said sip. And it was like, that's it.
There it is.
Like, that's it. It just was it. Like, I couldn't even imagine it not being named that anymore.
It's crazy how those aha moments come. Because like Perfect Tux was that for me. Like I was sitting in my day job, like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. What should I do? Then I had the idea to start this company, but I couldn't come up with a name. And I was just like, I was like, Perfect Tux. That go.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah. Or even the 9% show. Like I was like, I saw this statistic and I was like, the 9%.
Yeah.
The 9%. I got on my team. I called Mel, called Savannah. I was like, the 9%. So it is true. Like it hits you and just run with it.
Yeah.
Then you got to check social medias and domains and trademarks and all that good stuff. But hey, you just hope that it was just you thinking like that.
Exactly.
But okay, cool. And let's shout out to your co-founder, because also people like she is also another lawyer. It's remarkable. 2 Black women, 2 Black lawyers that started Sip Sonder. It's like it's crazy.
And we met we were working together at our first law firm in New York. That's how we met. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so she's from the East Coast too?
Yeah. She's like actually from the East. Like she was born in New York.
Yeah. Where were you born?
Germany.
Well, it makes all perfect sense. So cultural. Like goodness, but like seriously, like you're aware of everything. No, so yeah, shouts out to your co-founder and all that good stuff. That's dope. You guys are so dope. Like I'm like, it makes sense. Okay, so I kind of want to dive deeper. Actually, people always think they probably gonna think these are like props. I always forget because I just want to talk. But like, let's cheers real quick to just thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I also might throw this a little parched, but oh, geez,
that's tasty.
Yeah, you like it?
I'm a neat Scotch drinker.
Okay, and that actually brought me back. I remember when I ordered Black. I think you got the same thing. I was like, what? So I wasn't supposed to name drop yet. They didn't cut a check. this Scotch blended thing.
Something.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I only mix it with ginger ale if I do.
Mm-hmm.
I was at actual like a little tasting thing with Fish Little, and they were like, you can only mix it or water.
Yeah.
So it's official.
Like an official.
Yeah, it's an official drink. Don't get it twisted. But so yeah, we're gonna dive into the nitty-gritty because all this stuff sounds good. And I know one big thing that always people want to know is like the funding, the money aspect of it. And unless you guys were millionaires, which I'm assuming you weren't.
We're not.
How I know a little bit, and I know that it started with an SBA loan, I believe, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. And where I kind of want to dive into that because we all know how hard it is to get a traditional bank loan, and that's why the SBA exists. You can maybe explain that better than I can. But like for a new idea, let alone Sipping Sonder and never heard of it before, and like I got this, I want it to be this, a community, and just for the Black folks, and like how did you pitch that? But like, what was that process like in obtaining that loan? If that was the first thing you did, like what was that initial process like, or what made you land on that? Or what things did you try? Like really, like what was the foundation of trying to get the funding together?
For sure, yeah. I mean, it was difficult. I always like to be very honest about this. I don't think we would have gotten that loan if we weren't two corporate attorneys. We were still practicing at very large law firms.
Yeah.
And the funds, like from that loan that came in, we were able to show based on our income that we could pay it back. I like to be like, I'm not saying that's everybody's experience, but that is definitely the energy I got when we were going through the process.
But that is straight up what it is. It's like they don't care what is going on. Can you pay this back?
Can you pay it? That's like that, yeah. And so when I talked to some people who were wanting to make that shift from like corporate jobs into entrepreneurship, I'm like trying to like, if you can go for the loan while you're still employed, like do that.
Right. Because a 9% gem right there, y'all. Did y'all hear that? Okay.
But I remember at the time, because it took like 4 months for us to go from like the initial outreach to like the SBA loan through to actually getting it funded. But you had to show, at least we did, I think it was a construction one, like a lease. Right. So we had to enter into a lease before
you even got going.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, but they go like, so now you got to like negotiate the lease. I don't want to go too far off because I want to stick on the loan, but they're all connected. Yeah. Right. And so because how are you getting the landlord want to know that y'all are a business? So y'all, and so then it's a catch-22. It's like, I need this to get the money, and to get the money, I got to show them this. Yes. Yeah. So the bank is like, okay, where's the lease? The landlord's like, how you paying this lease? And I'm like, all right.
Yes.
And so again, for us, we were still working. And so we could kind of show that. We also, built the first spot in Inglewood. This was in 2017 when we got the lease. There was no stadium. There was no train station. Like all that. It was a different street. It was a different city at that time. Obviously, all cities kind of change and transform, and it was something before us, and et cetera. But at that time, it was maybe still in the lull of the city, and so that played a part into like the openness of the landlord to negotiating as well. But we were able to show, okay, let's negotiate what we thought was going to be. What did we get? And not having to like pay the rent for the first abated. Yeah, we got an abatement. Maybe like 4. I'm trying to remember now. 4 to 6 months, something like that. But it took 4 months to get the loan. Right. And so we were like, okay, well, we have the 4 months now. Then we got to start paying rent. Maybe we had to start paying before. I can't remember if we had to start paying before the rent or not. And so I had
well, hold on. Let me ask you like real quick, because I looked into an SBA loan at one point, and like the biggest hurdle I saw in that was just the timing of everything.
Yeah.
Of just like how did you feel comfortable enough to one, say like with the land, like you guys had to be like already gun ho about we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Like there was no turning back because you had to pull these triggers for that.
Yeah.
But like in looking at that, how did you like mentally, was there any points in that where you were just like, I don't know? Or is it just like this is what they say we got to do? I mean, I guess everybody does it. I mean, how did you?
I mean, it was, for me, it is and was my passion. And so I was like, whatever we have to do, like, this is something like, this is what I want to do with my life. I had the like job before, I had a 401k, tapped into that, which is, you get your own financial advice. We talk
about that we gonna talk about that on this. Man, y'all be thinking, oh my God. See, this is where you get the real conversation, okay? Because this is real.
Yeah.
This is real.
No, it was, between 401k, I had a life insurance plan that had an equity component. That like I know who it was, but in New York, and there were like everybody is coming up, Black professionals, right. You have the lawyers, your bankers, and everybody's like kind of also looking out. And so
pitching your things.
Yeah. So I got a pitch, and I was like, it was a cute pitch. I was making money, and I was like, I could put a few. At the time, it's a different life. I was like, I could put a few hundred over here, going towards this and just let it see what happens, let it grow. And that, was a Black guy that came and was like, there's this instrument with life insurance that had this equity component. You can save money on it, etc. Like that was my startup money for the company. And I didn't know it at the time. Like, I was just like, okay, I'm being told I need to like diversify what I'm getting in. I'm just kind of following things and like feeling like with interested people. Like it was a friend of a friend who was like, you should talk to, my guy over here who is over at like insert company that will pay you in the future to say their name. And so that was, it built up equity over time that I was able to cash into and feel comfortable of that time frame. To your point of like, there's a long time frame from applying to the SBA loan and getting it. And if I'm being very honest, I don't put too much credence on this loan because it was a loan for, I think, $170K. We put a lot more than $170K into opening in the business. And so and I say that not from not being thankful for the funds,
right?
But that the idea of how much work it took to get those funds that was maybe 25% of all of the money that we needed to. So
we're going to dive into that because I know that the build out and things like that is like when you just that unexpected expenses. Or you think it looks good on the business plan, and the way the projection is supposed to go, but it's actually going along.
Be a little different.
But so, okay, real quick, I do want to touch on, you kind of answered one of my questions I'm going to ask, but like, you mentioned that, like, just being honest, like, we was lawyers, we were corporate lawyers with good incomes, and that's why, helped out us get this loan. Sure. So, did they care about your business idea? Or, whatever you want to do. As long as you can pay it back.
I think they cared. Like it wasn't, we had our projections, we had our, the models in place, we had the plan written out, all the appendixes needed, for supporting what we said we were going to do. It made sense. Like it was a plan that made sense, that made money, that could show itself through. And I look back at that plan every once in a while just to like when I come across it. And literally, apart from the recording studio, we did everything. And I say that because we weren't necessarily like playing by the playbook of like, okay, in the plan, we said we're going to like, this is how it's going to be. But writing it, I'm just such a strong believer in like writing it down and like talking about it in like clear, concise ways, because that's what gets created.
It's funny because, like, I mean, we're not going to dive too much in business plans and whatnot, but like, there's like always a lot of like, I've seen stuff online like, is it worth it or things like that. And I've always give people advice. Like for me, I did business plans, but it's more that it's for me.
Yeah.
Like really to really get my thoughts
Yep.
in line and really think about stuff I didn't think about, like just really to think about
Yeah.
it. You know what I'm saying? So that was like the biggest part with like business plans for me. I think it was
Absolutely.
like,
Same.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah. We were moved into it because of the as we applied for the loans and stuff, but it was, I mean, it's the work you put into it's ever like you're drafting out what you're gonna do. Like it's kind of like,
yeah,
like if you know, and different people correspond different ways, and like, you know, to what you were saying, like if maybe that's not your thing, but it's hard. It would be hard for me in any kind of my life. You know, I journal in life, like to not be able to like communicate it clearly. Then I haven't gotten there yet. Then I need to figure out what I'm communicating a bit more.
Right. Okay. So let's fast forward a little bit more. So we're now at the point where we have some funding. I think the biggest takeaway from there is like, if you really want something, you need to tap into whatever you got, tap into it. And then also you gotta like, what's that? As long as you stay ready, you gotta get ready.
Yeah.
Like you just can't go up into a bank or SBA office or, obviously I think people need to know maybe we'll put this at the bottom of the screen, but like SBA doesn't give you the money directly. They back a percentage of the loan just in case, because like you're very risky as a startup business. And if you do fail, I think the government, pays back a percentage of it, 80%.
Yeah, they like work with a lender. So our lender was like Wells Fargo in this particular case,
right.
But then the SBA backs the loan from Wells Fargo or whomever.
Right.
I will say one thing that I didn't know going into the process that I wish I knew was we had to put up 20% of the loan ourselves.
Oh wow!
So there's a sweat equity, and not sweat equity, but a skin in the game.
I was gonna say it's sweat equity. I'm working hard.
I did the sweat equity. There's a skin in the game component of 20%, and if you save your receipts, so if you had already started doing stuff for the business, then that counts towards the 20%, and so it doesn't have to be like all new money.
Yeah.
If you didn't do that, then you have to put new money up, but you can also show receipts. And I didn't know that. So I just want to, like, if I knew, I would have been better at like saving receipts.
Right. I've always wondered too, when they, for if they wanted 20%, like, do they just want to see that? And then are you getting the money you're requesting on top of that 20%? Or are they saying, no, we're going to subtract that 20% from whatever loan you have and you got to spend that money,
Yeah, you got to have that.
Okay. Well,
or show that you spent it already through receipts.
Got it. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, like that's terrifying. It's
I was like, wait, I got to give you money?
Yeah, like I'm trying to, this has to go this way.
So I, just look into that, save your receipts, because it was something I was not aware of.
Okay.
At least in the structure that the loan that we got.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so now you have, let's say you secured the financing, or at least enough to feel like you can start. You might not have got it all, but so I guess, well, let's talk about Inglewood for a second. I mean, you've kind of touched on it. Like, I mean, maybe the rents was a little bit better at the time, and maybe like you was able to negotiate a better lease in that particular space. But was it purposeful? I mean, did it by chance you land on Inglewood, or was it something that you felt like connected to the city? Like, I can see this, or I could see some type of future of like you had a crystal ball that the SoFi and everything would be there soon. I mean, how did you land on Inglewood?
Yeah, it was a few different things. I think when moving, like we're not from LA, so we're very open about that. It feels a little different. It's been like 8 years, so I feel like we're part of the city.
You like everybody else in LA. It's all good.
It's like, but at the time we were, very, very new, and I was looking, because I had moved from Brooklyn, from Bed-Stuy, and I was looking for the Bed-Stuy in LA, right? Like, where am I? Like, where are the Black people, basically? Good
luck. It's a hard find sometimes.
That was my thing. And then I started to, like, just on a personal level, not even like looking for the business at this point. And I was like looking around neighborhoods. I had come across like Limerick Park, and then I came like over into Inglewood and saw the history in the background and like the community that was there. And I was like, okay, this feels like home. Like, this can be home here. And so the first part was the intentionality around being in in a Black and Brown community. Like that was number one. That was, the experiences that we both had kind of in like different ways, but conceptually of coming from Black communities that didn't have access to coffee shops, and both going into very privileged spaces and understanding, even if you don't drink coffee, the importance of having coffee shops and like accessible, to just have a place that you could walk into and sit. Like, it's like,
chill, do something.
So that was an initial part of like, this is a company foundationally created for the Black community. It is open and accessible to everyone.
Right.
The core of our beginning was to provide access to the communities that reflect us as Black women. And so Inglewood was that community for us.
So it's funny because well, let me ask two parts to that. I want to know if, because I'm thinking about my own experience, one being like a Black business owner, and I don't know if you felt, well, two parts. So I don't know, have you ever felt any uncomfortableness being a Black business owner? Like, obviously in Inglewood, so maybe not as much, but like being that Black face and being proud enough to be in front and like, oh, well, these people mess with me if they know I'm a Black owner. Like, have you had any feelings on that? And then on the flip side of that, of like just how sometimes Black people can be a little tough to deal with from a cultural standpoint, being that you guys wasn't from Inglewood, wasn't from the West Coast, and like you're really trying to say, hey, Inglewood, we're building this community and this culture here, like follow us. And they're like, who are y'all? Was that tough to get that buy-in from an authenticity standpoint? Like those two parts.
Yeah. I guess on the first part of like being a Black, like a stated Black company, we did get pushback in a weird way, in an unexpected way from certain community leaders in the city. That was very unexpected.
Really?
Yeah. We went to get we didn't move through with it because COVID happened and all the things, but we were doing a beer and wine license, and you have to go in front of the city and like, say why you should have it, all the things. And we were like, okay, this will be like a good 10-minute situation.
Right.
3 hours later, at some point, I was, it was wild to me. I was explaining how we weren't racist to certain city officials.
Wow.
Which was like, if you asked me before I went in there, a conversation that I would never expect to be having. It's like trying to convince people that we weren't racist. And the only thing that I could, like, we went after and like, we went to Buffalo Wild Wings after the meeting, and we're just like sitting around like, what was that? Like, why would they even think that? Like what? And the only thing we could come up with is that every face on the website is Black. And because there's nothing, like, certainly we're a Black-owned company, but there's no like, we make coffee, everybody, like anyone can come in. And so that was an interesting one for me. And probably the most extreme version of facing some sort of backlash from being proudly Black owned, or prominently Black owned in that way.
Yeah.
The second part of your question was really, really something that was important to us. Like you mentioned, like the LA Black Investors Club, now Sonder Impact, preceded Sip Sonder. And so after that first e-commerce talk that we met at, most of the other events were happening in South LA and Inglewood. And so the people that have been our neighbors now for 4 years we were their client. We were going into their spaces to hold the events, to be in the community that we were going, wanting to, on the nonprofit side, to provide access to the resources that we had coming from, corporate law firms, and those like networks that we were building. And so being actively in the community through the nonprofit was our first entry into that space. it was very, very clear to us that this wasn't and we wouldn't allow it to be, we're coming into this neighborhood because we think you need this. Like, that's not like,
right.
We're coming in hoping to be welcomed into this space because there's this thing that we think is really important, has been important to us. And we want to know, can we build this together to create a space that has global ownership within the community, like that buy-in into it. And
then also, I'm assuming at that time that, well, maybe not at that time, but pretty quickly, like gentrification was real in Inglewood, and it still is. But like, obviously, I would assume at this point people are just glad like there's some Black-owned business that's leading the forefront out there for some of this gentrification. But at that time, was it something like people were leery of, or they were just like, oh no, it's needed, like come over here?
I mean, we were so transparent about everything. Like, I don't know if you came to some of the earlier events in the space.
Oh yeah,
did you come to the Arlen one? Arlen's
oh no,
not that one, but
yes.
So we didn't have like walls. Like we were like serving drinks on like drywall. Like
it's one of my questions. How do you keep the revenue going before you get that your doors? But no, yeah.
But that was like, and it was something, like it took us a long time to get those permits through, but we would open up the space. We would ask the community for feedback. It was like, when I say like that level of ownership, it was, we are like, not only are we building this together, but we are like creating community inside this without, it was a bit of a like, ego kill to open the doors and have what are like those chairs, the folding chairs, and trying to cover up the drywall and then saying this is us, y'all. Like,
it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be good. Like, just wait for it.
Yeah.
But that level of we had to be. We couldn't ask the community to trust us if we weren't gonna trust the community,
right?
You know what I mean? And so that was the start of it. Like, that's the foundation of Sip Sonder in Inglewood. And so to be received by the community is probably that's the biggest thing for like, I'm like, even I'm getting emotional. Like, it means so much to be received by the community in that way, because they didn't have to, right? Like every day I walk in, even today, like I just like literally today, I just stand there and I look around and I'm like, this is fucking beautiful. Sorry. This is very beautiful.
You're all good. We don't have any, we don't have nobody that cares. But no, like, I mean, and that's great. And I think from and I think a lot of times, and it might just be me, I think like, well, one, you guys were strategic about everything you were doing. Like, nothing was for chance. Like, you guys had, like, obviously you cared. It's one thing to care about community and do it, but you're still a business person. Like, you know what you're not blindly doing stuff, sure. But it's like to be authentic in that way. And I think a lot of times you can kind of get in your own head about like how you perceive or thinking about the drywall, think about how this goes. And it's like, for a lot of people, it stops them from doing certain things or like caring about all that stuff. So it's great that you guys was able to like just muster through and just like, but be strategic, but like know what you're doing and like, really go for it. So let's talk about that drywall for a second. Now, with me in building, I knew nothing about build outs and nothing about, leases and all that stuff until I actually had to build the Perfect Tux store. Yeah. And for those that don't know, we're actually shooting this inside Perfect Tux. We have all type of setups here. Shanita, see the
very beautiful.
Yes. Okay. All right. Beautiful. I'll take that. I received that. But it was very hard. Very hard. And like, obviously, if you guys ever I know some of your other locations are like kiosks and things like that. But okay, I guess that's so deep with the build out. It's crazy. But I guess like, how did you attack? Like, I had a designer that was like a lifesaver. Like, he told me how to deal with the contractors. He had, vendor, set up. He had the whole thing laid out, like all the questions we had. And, obviously we paid him for that particular service, but like, I would not have done it without that. It seemed like y'all had a lot of things where y'all was like a lot of trial and error. Like, for me, with the space location, like, did you have to build all that from scratch? could you have cut the corner somewhere? I mean, like, go back to that beginning time of like, you know.
I have trauma from that. It was like everything that could go wrong, like went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Like every single month. It was the most frustrating year and a half of my entire life.
So it took a year and a half.
It took a year and a half. That was another part.
Yeah, that's a long time.
It's a long time.
Oh my
At some point, we had to start paying rent. It took a long time. We had, we were new to the city, right? And so we're trying to find the right people. We don't really have any money because we gave it all to the landlord now, or like, you know, making sure the 20% to the, the lender. And so we couldn't get a general contractor at first. And so we were kind of quarterbacking it, and brought in some contractors that we thought were going to be good. We were stolen from.
Oh my gosh.
Someone that was like, "This is my business, not your business," and it was like,
what?
This don't even make sense.
Are you serious?
It was. I mean, just every single thing. There was a time. I remember one day I had to go, and literally we had a plan, like someone who was building out the plans for like electricity or something, and they weren't answering the phone anymore, and then we need to get these plans in because it's a year and a half, right? This is a little bit more about me. So, you know, I'm gonna like pull up.
That stock came back.
You know? And so this is embarrassing. I don't know if I can talk about this.
It's for real though. I mean, people think this stuff is easy. This stuff is not easy.
So I may have found the home.
Where my plans? Where my plans?
And rang the doorbell. And asked about where the plans were. And so by doing that, you know, we had a little talk. And his office was in that same space in home. And so at some point I was like, well, just like you have your signature, like you're the licensed person and you have the software. I was like, I'm an engineer. I can figure it out. Like, just let me sit down and do it. And so I sat down and did it.
Like, get out the way. And was he still paid for this stuff? Oh,
we needed, you know.
If anybody deserves, you know, it's funny. It's like I've told a couple stories. I'm about to tell some stories on future episodes, and I'm like, dang, they could put one or two together. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, I don't know. My experience in business, if you do people right, you ain't got nothing. Like, you ain't got to worry about this stuff.
No, like, I love that. Is like my philosophy. Oh, I love that.
Like, seriously, it's some basic stuff.
Yeah.
So wow, I had no clue.
These are like the soft stories I'm telling.
See, it's making me like, I'm so thankful for our designer because he came up with electrical plans. He came up like literally every single aspect of plans. What like I didn't know you need to for the outlets need to go and this, that, third, and you know, ADA and you know. Oh my goodness.
We had to dig up the bathroom floor 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
Because like just the amount of pure frustrations of like finding like in retrospect, I would have figured out the money for a good general contractor.
Right.
Like it would have been like I probably spent you know what I mean? And just like the like emotional mental capacity to do that and getting someone who like either it was recommended or, you know, that you have some like street cred, so they care about their reputation. Like,
what's amazing is that during the times you were doing, I do remember you were doing the event still, and to keep a smile on your face, and I'm sure there was lots of questions like, when is it going to be ready? Like, what's going on here? Like, how were you in that mental space able to, well, one, mentally handle it, and then two, from a financial standpoint, was the clock ticking?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think from a mental state, I was thankful to have a business partner. I think it would have been really difficult, and a life partner, like, to go through that and not have that level of support. I can't even imagine, like, even just like being able to sit and like cry, like, you know, monetarily, you know, it was difficult. Like, we were both still working as full-time corporate attorneys at large law firms.
And I gotta imagine that's a pressure in itself, right?
Which is, like, you know what I mean? Like, in and of itself, like that alone, like if it was just that, like that's a pretty stressful life.
So some of those scenes from Insecure was real. What's her name on that show? Was a lawyer.
It is. When they did the Coachella, that literally was me at Coachella with you. I don't even have my laptop. I was like, so it's very, very spot on those scenes. But I remember one day we had like, I finally got a meeting at the permitting office in the city, and I was closing a deal, like an M&A deal. It was the same day, and I was like sitting in the city on the floor with my laptop, waiting for the name to be called, trying to like be quick to respond so they don't know I'm not in the office. Like all the things. But I had to your point, because we had these bills. Like I couldn't leave. Like I had no other income coming in, you know, for both myself to like pay rent at home or like eat. And then also to make sure that, you know, we're still moving things forward. And same with Amanda, like they're, you know, also at a large corporate law firm doing the same thing. And so it was thankful. And I'm like, I'm also very thankful to have had that job, like to have had that opportunity, like the privilege of that space to even say that I can work, you know, while we're doing this. And so, you know, it's one of those like, yeah, it's hard, but like how amazing that I even had that to access so that we could build this other space. You know?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm just like, I'm having like, just, it's like, I to go through those roller coasters of emotions, like people don't understand, like just to muster it through. It's like, it's crazy. And even when you, like I said, that's when you get emotional, like I said, thinking back on it, because it's traumatic.
It's traumatic. There's some moments, I was at a conference for something, and I remember I was a lot of character, but I was on the phone, and I was just like, I had it. I was done with this contractor, screaming. And I was like, and I walked back in, everybody turned around, and I'm like, like, is she all right? I was like, all right, I gotta get out of this. This isn't me anymore.
So, I mean, I was gonna ask, like, what would you have done differently? But you've probably learned so much. I bet you if you had to build another Sip Sonder today,
it would be so different. It would be so different. I mean, we get the opportunity, you know, with the upcoming location, and we, you know, we didn't talk about this, but we built a space also in Sherman Oaks at the Macy's. We sunsetted a couple weeks ago, so we only were there for a year. Just the traffic and it wasn't there, and so we made a business decision to sunset that location. Fully different perspective in going into that space, different ways of negotiating the contract. The reason we got to get out in a year was because I was like, let me make sure we didn't go, you know, have the terms in here correctly. You know, the build out, the hiring, the like every part of it, but it was just shifted, right? And so as we look into like the next space, like that becomes even more of a like, okay, what are things that even in this third thing, in that third space that we open, what could we have done differently? And so now we have that framework to go into this next location of like, okay, this is what we need to do.
It's crazy too. Like this wasn't even one of my questions, but hearing you talk about all this stuff, and even in my experience with stuff, and just running a business in general, like the dang, like I always wonder what the politicians were talking about when they talk about regulations and stuff. And this ain't a political show, so we ain't gonna dive deep into that. But you know, black folks, we bleed blue, okay? This out the blue. But like these regulations, like I'm just trying to open a shop. I just want to sell some coffee. Like I remember the first time I tried to like hire somebody, and I'm like I gotta put up a sign. I gotta do this. I gotta pay this type of tax. I gotta pay this type. Like forget hiring somebody. Like, it makes you want to say, like, well, I'm like,
why?
and if you, and honestly, it's like, who knows where I'll be in, 20 years from now, 10 years, 5 years, maybe I'll go for something. I'm on my HOA board right now, so maybe that's a entry line into politics. I don't know.
Love it.
But there's things that like need to change.
Yeah.
Like, it's really ridiculous.
It's kind of crazy. It doesn't always feel, well, not to go too far, but sometimes I think people just want you to be a W-2.
Yeah.
But
Or they make Or the powers that be made it so tough. Like, no, we don't want everybody to get this. Yeah, like
that's
and so that's where I guess if anything else, and then like on this show, like if we could give you any advice to help you get a leg up, we would try to go for it. But this stuff is real. Mm-hmm. Like, it is so real, and it's like, and just like, and the funny thing to me with like city officials or whatever the case may be, like, you've never ran a business. Yeah. You've never opened it. Like, you were making it sound like you're dealing with Mr. McDonald over here. They just got, you're used to all these funds just coming into your development, and you're like no. It's like, do you understand, like, every day is like money going out the door? Yeah. So it's crazy.
It's a lot. I mean, I think that's why shows like this are genuinely so important, because I almost went crazy going through it, because you are like, why is it so hard for me? Like, why, what I mean? Like, does everyone just know this? Yeah. How are you, like, exactly. You know what I mean? Because this, like, to your point, like, the people you're engaging with haven't mostly been in the position you're in. And so they're requesting things that they don't even know the burden that, that they're putting on in that way. And then if you don't have a network, or, you don't come from a family of it, like, to not be able to hear someone else say, like, yeah, this is really hard.
Yeah.
Like, period.
Right. That's all I have to say. Yeah. Seriously. Like, no, I totally get it. And it's, we are here for the people. Okay. We're here for the people. Okay. So, oh my gosh, this is so good. I feel like we got to get a part 2 in here. Like, there's so many subtopics that you can speak on. And that's what, like, I was so excited about this show. It's like, every time I talk about something or talk to somebody, I'm like, oh, that's another one. That's another one. Yeah. But, oh my goodness, I got my fancy cards here. I'm trying to get into some stuff. I'm trying to get into the stuff that, like, people really gonna take. So when did you get to the point, and I don't even know if you quit your day job or quit being a lawyer, but like, when did that happen? Yeah. And when did you feel comfortable enough to do that?
Yeah, I haven't.
Well, there you go.
No, it's been, I left the law firm, my last law firm, top of 2020, pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. And the world changed. We had pre-COVID, our highest revenue month, February 2020. And I was like, we got it.
We getting it. I was in that same boat.
And then March 2020.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
It was like, okay, right. Let's figure this out. And so I continued practicing. Through that time, I opened up my own practice group. Oh. And so I still practice. Not as much. I'd say Sip Sonder is probably, it depends on the month. It's different every month. I'd say it's like 80-20 now of like my overall time. Sip Sonder gets all of me, and then what I have left, I give, and still like fully to my clients.
Right.
And so I think the shift now, and what makes it really fulsome for me, is I get to choose my clients. So my clients are Black and Brown startups in the community, right? And so that's been that's been how I've been able to like shift and navigate within that. Because it is, I do genuinely like practicing well. Right. Like I like deal flow. Yes, I like doing
you genuinely love it.
I genuinely love it. It's like it's like, and it supplements my income. Mm-hmm. We put everything. We're growing I don't think we've had a time where we haven't been growing. And that's a decision, right, that we made. And so even if we are at a moment of catch up, we're now building out something else. Yeah. And so we, that's just where we were in that growth phase. We've decided to continue growing in that way. And so that just, not a lot of salary coming my way.
Right. It's crazy because like, man, being a business owner is like, money is just like, you're just trying to hang on to some of it. Like, can I pay myself? Like this person, like even for me, I'm like, UPS is eating. His employees is eating. Freaking USPS is eating. Like the software companies eating. Like all these people eating that's getting all this money. You just try to hang on to a little bit. But I gotta believe that like for a coffee shop or any type of maybe like restaurant, food type of beverage, like it's already in the plan that you need employees to even operate.
To do anything,
Like, I know me hiring my first employees was scary. Every time I hire an employee, I'm like, you kind of look at it as an ROI thing. Like, okay, what do you be doing? With, see the big picture. But like, when you're like, y'all just got through the build out, y'all do all this stuff, and then you're putting in a thing like, I gotta pay somebody.
Yeah.
Like
many people.
Yeah. I mean, like how, obviously you guys are, I'm assuming you're always aware that cost is going to come.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But just like, again, like how do you get yourself in the mental space to say you just know it's going to work? Like,
that part, if I'm being very honest, like every 2 weeks I'm like, okay, like it is like payroll's a thing. Like it does not come, and there are people that are dependent on the structure you've created to sustain their lives, and that is a lot of pressure. It is scary sometimes. I try not to think about it. To your question, sometimes it just go happen. It has to. It has to happen. And so there was a time I think we had too many people at a time on a shift. So we have shifts and things like that. And so we streamlined a bit. But to your point, like people have to be there. They have to be trained. Like it is important to us that we are serving an excellent product. In order to provide that level of a product, then our team needs to be trained and be in a space that they can thrive. Right. And so now we have either people who are coming in skilled or need to reach a level of skilled for our training. That means, you find the corners where you can. So, I learned how to be a really great barista. I became an expert in coffee.
Like you had to be.
I had to be.
Yeah.
Like because we can't afford to hire that person in.
Yeah.
And so I had to become that person. I'm our electrician and our plumber. I uninstall and install all of our machines. We have a grinder that needs new burrs. I got to go down and grab them and then install them. And which is again a place of incredible, like I'm thankful for the skill set, that I gained and all the other things that I did to be able to move into that space. So in part it's like, okay, well, I can do this, or I can learn pretty quickly how to do it. And also like I have to, because we can't bring somebody else in here to do it right now. Right. Yeah. Like that's, as we build. And so there are those moments of like, okay, we can, I guess the latest one, like when we closed down the Sherman location, and we had to rearrange all of the equipment and get it, everyone kind of shifted around. One, it was important for us to maintain or at least provide offers to every single employee that was in that space to either be in another location or work for the company in another capacity.
Think about another Perfect Tux location. I'm like, maybe not. Just goodness gracious.
But it's
okay.
It's their choice. You make the choice, and so that means I gotta rent a U-Haul, and the collective team comes together, and we're the ones that are moving boxes, right? And so, it looks different. Like we haven't, I guess, further context, we haven't raised a round of equity. We're moving into that now of like, what does this look like for us to have like funding, like third-party funding into the company. But that's not the case. So it's, it's bootstrapped in its revenues. And that was intentional to like build a foundation because of what our company is built on, and the community and cultural aspect of it is the company. Like
Yeah.
That's, you know,
It's crazy how you, we're about to button this up, but like I think I told Mel a couple times. I'm like, sometimes when good things happen, and something you could post on social media, and like, it's a stunting moment, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're killing it! Y'all are getting it," and you just be like, like you just did X, Y, Z in the background,
like,
or like, yeah, I'm tired. Like y'all don't have no idea, but go ahead and like that photo. We killing it. It's crazy, but y'all really are killing it.
No,
I don't care. Like,
I mean, we've been trying to celebrate the announcement of Disney since it came out.
Yeah.
There's just too much to like. It's like
it's a lot. It's real out here. Okay, this stuff is not easy. Okay, I think this last question I have for you is and I hope like literally you're gonna have to come back. Okay, we got to come back and we're gonna talk about some of these other details because like it's a lot of oh my gosh, it's so much stuff.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess based on like, I don't want to say the cliche question of like, what advice would you give someone? But geez, like what advice would you give someone? And then maybe I could put it at a point where, gosh, I don't even know what. Like, I mean, what is your? Okay, I guess let's make it a two-parter. What are the biggest hurdles that you see some people that don't get it? Like, why don't they get it, or why even if people you gave advice to and they just didn't fall through on it? And then what's your like overall advice to just someone that's just like kind of want to get it?
Yeah. I guess on the follow through, it's interesting. So I happen to be surrounded by a lot of people that do really great follow throughs, which has been incredible to see. And so I'll kind of flip that question a bit of what I see other people doing, and it's having like kind of what we talked about earlier, like having that clear vision and also being able to like read the room, right? Like see a few steps beyond of like, okay, if I'm getting this feedback right now, how do I not necessarily like change what I'm doing to like accommodate, because then you'll never move forward into what you want to do. But then, okay, if this is the feedback I'm getting right now, then how do I attune that to what they're seeing and then what I want them to move into? So how do I grow my business into a way that I'm going to lead them into this space that they may not even be aware of what they're asking for right now, but I can see that that's what they mean. You know what I mean? Like that, like the step after the next step kind of a moment, and being strong in that, like feeling confident and your ability to create that moment. I've seen that with companies that I've had the privilege to work with and see how they've done that pathway.
Yes, just the overall advice. But geez, it's been an hour of advice, so we'll cut it here. Unless you got something else you want to add on to it, because I mean, if you got to run this back like 55 times, okay? Because this is like, it's been a whole lot of gems dropped. But we gonna cut it there, okay? Thank you again, Shanita, for being on the show. Oh my goodness, you gonna go on the wall as our first guest, okay? Like,
very honored.
Yeah, thank you so much. Everybody else, hope you enjoyed it. Remember to write in the comments any questions, any feedback about the show. Please leave it there. This is our first show, so we want to like continue to grow, continue to know what you want to know about this. What's on your mind? What questions do you have? And we'll check all those things out, or I'll check them out. I'm so used to saying we're the team. It's just it's not me, but I have a team here that helps me out. But yo, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next episode of the 9% Show. See ya.